Hello everybody, welcome back to another Blender tutorial on how to make assets for Minetest. In this video, I'm going to be doing something that was requested by Daniel Smith. And he asks in a YouTube comment, which is a great way to get a hold of me if you don't feel like sending an email. But anyways, yes, he asks how to make a truck, any kind, for in Minetest. I'm assuming, honestly, I have no idea. So we're just going to look at how to make a truck. And this will apply whether it's being for Minetest or not. And when I say truck, I'm using that term extremely loosely because I think we're actually going to make like an ATV or maybe a like a go-kart or something smaller. Just because there's less detail to put in, and small things are cute. So to start off, we are going to make a wheel. And, I think I'm going to go with 12 vertices on this wheel. We could use 8. It would work just fine. I mean, we could seriously use 6, but I just think personally I'm going to use 12. You can obviously use whatever you want. The radius, well, that's definitely way too large. Let's do 0.25, which will make it half a node, which is still actually going to be too tall, but I'll scale it down later. And the depth, let's put that to 0.25 as well. Which that might actually be too big yet. I don't know. But let's go into edit mode now and rotate this whole thing 90 degrees. And actually, let's hit the N key to pull up our transform here. And I'm going to call this wheel. Now, I am going to create this as multiple meshes. It'll probably be, each wheel is going to be its own mesh. So there'll be 4 right there. The body and like little fenders and steering. So we'll probably be looking at about 10 meshes, but I will show how to combine it all together if you want to do it all as one mesh. So I'm thinking let's put one wheel there. Now, whatever we choose as our bottom is going to be subject to change. I mean, depending on what you're using this for, you're going to have different bottom points. But I'm going to do that, I think, as my bottom. So it's set half a node under the 0, which would work for Minetest if it's just a node. If it's an entity, I believe you still put it half a node. Actually, no, I think entity you put on the floor. I'm not positive. I am not very good with entities, but modeling I'm okay at. So firstly, we're going to have a wheel, and we're going to have 4 wheels. So let's go ahead and make sure this one wheel is finished before we go ahead and duplicate it so we only have to do stuff once. I'm thinking that's actually a decent size, I think. But we probably do want an axle coming off of it. Now, do we really want an axle coming off of it? I don't know. It all depends on what you're using the model for. For something in Minetest, I don't think we would ever see this axle here. But I'm going to go ahead and create one anyways. And I'll just extrude that out. Say to, let's do 1.5. Okay, so we have a wheel here. I didn't actually want to do that. All right, so we're gonna have 4 wheels. Well, let's go ahead and unwrap this wheel right away. So we only have to do that on one wheel. I'm gonna go to edge select and hide hidden, or in the back faces. Hitting Shift Alt and right clicking loop selects. Actually, I think just Alt right click is supposed to loop select, but because I use Linux, it snaps to moving windows and stuff. So Shift Alt, right click will do it. Control E, mark seam. We're going to do the same thing on here. And mark seam, we're going to do the same thing down in the center here. And I accidentally hit the E key instead of Control E. E key extrudes. So that's why I had the extra face. The X key deletes, and I just made it go away. So A-OK, fine dandy, good on that. So let's go ahead and unwrap this and just see what we get. Alright, so this is our outside wheel, or the outside face of the wheel. It's the inside face of the wheel. Smaller one's the axle. This larger one here is the tire tread. The axle honestly does not need this interior face, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that face because, well, it doesn't need to exist. It'll never be seen. And I'll just go ahead and mark a seam on that. So let's unwrap this again. Alright, so this is our axle. This box here. That's good. The tire tread. Tire tread is usually going to be a repeating pattern. So the question is, how often are we going to have this repeat? I'm thinking every other will be repeated. Yeah, I think that works. Control E, mark seam. Let's go ahead and unwrap this one more time. Alright, so we get all of these square doodads, which is great, but unfortunately we don't know if they're all lining up. So what we're going to do is create a color grid. Boom, and let's change this to texture. So now we have all those textures showing, and we need to go ahead and do UVs constrained to image bounds. And then let's go ahead and just start shoving everything for that tire tread in this corner. Now I have one that looks like that is rotated incorrectly, but that's an easy fix. Alright, so let's take a look at this wheel. If everything's right... Ooh, these two are not right. So how do we fix that? How do we know which faces those are? Well, let's go ahead to face select mode, and boom, right there. There are my two faces. So I'm going to go ahead and select both on my mesh, and then just rotate them around right here. And now we have H1G1, 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 H1G1. Perfect. So the tire tread repeats, which is fine and dandy. Inside of the wheel, the outside of the wheel, we might want to draw on a hubcap or something onto that. The axle, that's just going to be a dirty metal color. And I'm not even going to actually texture this, but I just wanted to show that. And like I said, I want to make sure we do that before we go ahead and duplicate these, because otherwise we have to do this 4 times. Shift D to duplicate, move back. I'm going to highlight both. Shift D, slide it over, holding down the control key to do snapping. Alright, we have 4 wheels. Let's go ahead and name these wheels. I'm going to do wheel underscore F for front, and that is the left, so I'll do FL, and then this will be wheel underscore FR, and this will be wheel underscore RR, and this will be wheel underscore LR. So we have the front, oops, did that wrong. It should be RL. Alright, so we have the rear right wheel, the rear left wheel, the front right, or front left, and the front right. 4 wheels. Woohoo. This is going to be an epic car. Alright, that's our wheels. We're going to get to rigging, but we'll do that later. I'm going to rig this with bones, but you could do it if you keep them as separate meshes, and we could use some constraints to make everything work. We're going to go ahead and use bones, though, and use some bone constraints, and we'll do the same thing. Let's go ahead and add a cube in. Go ahead to edit mode and wireframe. And let's pull the bottom up here, again holding the control key. The bottom should be about close to the axle. I'm going to put it at the exact same level of the bottom of the axle because, well, it doesn't have to be real. And I'm going to do, yeah, it'll stick a little out on the front, and the sides are going to stick in just a little bit because, well, you don't want your wheel rubbing against your frame. And then the top, of course, can come down quite a bit. Alright, so we have a frame to our car now. Yay! That's really, really plain, though. That's really boring. That looks dumb. Let's spice it up. What we're going to do may sound crazy, but trust me, it gets crazier. we are going to delete half of this car. And then I'm going to delete this. Whoops, I did not want to extrude that. Let me go ahead and delete that edge. Select that edge, and we're going to delete that edge. So now we have 4 vertices and 3 edges. And why in the world would we do that? Because we can do a fun thing which I have not shown off yet, and we can draw. I use the term draw loosely. We're not really drawing. We are extruding using the E key, and we are creating the shape we want our vehicle to become. Now I am loosely basing this off of a wooden toy that I made. I know. Crazy. Who would do such a thing? Well, clearly this guy would. We'll just shift to select those 2 vertices and hit the F key to join them. Alright, so what are we looking at? We are looking at just an edge. There's no faces in this. That's kind of a problem. Let me fix that. Let's go back to wireframe view. Alright, so we need to draw in some faces. And we can do faces with 3 vertices and create a face that way by hitting the F key. Or we can do 4 vertices and do a face that way. I personally like to do 4 vertice faces, even though when anything's going to a game engine, it's being split into triangles anyways, but I dislike using triangles, so I just use quads. So here is the first issue, which is not an issue, but the first thing to point out. We have, I should leave that on. We have 2 vertices on the bottom, one on the front and one on the back. But then on this point we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what do we need to do? We need to add 3 more to the bottom here. How do we do that? Well, we could, I think, like hold control, I don't know, somehow you can loop cut. There's a knife, actually right here, knife. And you can kind of draw a line, and that's supposed to cut it. But I think I'm doing something wrong. Enter pad, enter space, confirm. Left mouse button, start, define, cut. Double left mouse to close cut. Whoa. Oh, because this is for cutting faces. It's not going to work on an edge. Okay, well that wasn't the method I wanted to use anyways. I was going to do Control E. Or, take the back, Control R. On an edge, if you click it and then Control R, you get this little loop cut or ring cut, and you can roll the mouse. And I don't know if you can see them too well in the video, but there's a little pink dot there, here, here, and that's it. And it tells us down at the bottom here, number of cuts 4, smooth is set to 0, which is fine. How many cuts did we need? I think we needed 4, right? 1, 2, 3. And notice that they're drawing into every face that we are going over. But we want to do it on the bottom one here. If I do one too many, I can always easily get rid of it. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, and now let's line these up. So that should be there. And we have that. Let's move this guy over to there. So we have that. Let's move this one over to right there. So we have this. And what do you know? I did take one too many. But if we hit the X key, we can dissolve vertice, and that just makes it go away. And then we'll put a face on there. Now we need to get some faces going here. We have one vertice in the center there. So I'm just going to go ahead and put one in here. And then go ahead and do one right there. Alright, so now if we go to solid view, we have a mesh going through, but something looks a little wacky with it, right? Like the shading's all messed up. Well, we can fix it easily by doing... It's here someplace. Shading UVs, here we go. Recalculate normals. It'll flip normals to all be consistent. So now the normals are pointing outward. Well, the same outward on all of them. Alright, so this is great, right? We have this flat piece that's going to represent the center of this vehicle. But we don't want it to stay flat. So let's go ahead and select the whole thing. I'll go back to quad view so you can see. It's all selected. We're going to hit the E key to extrude. And we're just going to drag it out. And now we have the center of this vehicle. And you'll notice something looks a little weird again, like these wheels are much lighter than the inside. Well, that's because all the normals are backwards. So let's go ahead and recalculate one more time. And now the normals point outwards. Alright, so that looks okay, but I kind of think I want like fenders going over these wheels, right? Because right now you drive this thing through mud, it's all coming up in your face, rear tire spin around, throwing it up on your back. It's just going to be a huge mess. So let's go ahead and make some fenders. And we'll do that by adding another cube. And we're going to go ahead and just scale that thing down super small. It's really not super small, but we're going to scale it down. Use the B key to do a box selection. Alright, so it is 1/10 of unit tall. We're going to drag it out to the side of the vehicle. I think I want this fender sticking out a little further. The wheels will stick out further than the fenders. Obviously, you're free to make it however you want. But that's how I'm doing it. I'm going to select everything and go ahead and put this fender in where I feel it should be. Which I feel right here is fine. And you know what? That fender's a little too thick. Let's make it thinner. This is, after all, supposed to be metal, right? Alright, so we have this fender going here. And we are going to go ahead and extrude. And extruding only goes straight on the normal of the face. So we're going to just kind of guesstimate. And then drag this down. And we're going to put the front fender there. And that looks fine, but you know what? This gets a little too thin. So let's go ahead and rotate this. And it's kind of a guessing game because you don't really know what your angles are. But that kind of makes this thickness a little better. But it makes this front look a little tall here. And this is kind of nitpicky, but it doesn't hurt to do it. Make that a little thinner. Alright, so we have a front fender. Yes. No more getting mud in my face. But you know what? We should have a rear fender too. So let's go ahead and extrude this back to, I think there's good. And let's extrude this up. Which again, we can't do because you can only extrude straight out. So we'll decide on a point where we want it to be. And I'm going to go back to the side view here in full screen so I can see a little better. Let's put it there maybe? No, you know what? I think we need to pull this forward some so we clear the wheel. Because obviously you don't really want the fender hitting the wheel. Now if I match this with the front fender, it should be at that point. Which that looks kind of high, but that's fine. Again, you can always tweak things. That's the beautiful part about this. Alright, so let's do what we did up on the front side here and rotate this. I think I'll do 25 degrees again. That seems to work out pretty well. And you know what? Here I'm going to go ahead and rotate these 15. Again, it kind of puts that back a little thicker. Alright, so that's a decent looking fender, I feel. But maybe it doesn't need to be so wide in the middle here. How do we pull that in? Well, we could just select that face and push it in. But that makes the whole fender get narrower as it goes back, which is probably not what we want. Now, on the one that I made, the wooden one, which actually I think I have a model of someplace on my computer. I may include that in the downloads as well if I can find it. What I did is I actually chopped a chunk of this out. So, to chop a chunk out, let's go ahead and do a loop cut. And we'll just put it in the center here. So, as you see down here, oh wait, I can't get my cursor there. In the bottom right, I have a little thing that says edge slide. 0 is the center, and then as you go off to the side, it kind of gives you a percentage. So we'll just leave it at 0. And then we are going to go in and just delete these 3 faces by doing, we'll select them, hit X, and then delete only faces. Oh, you know what? we have to delete these two edges. Those we don't want either. Delete edges. Alright. So that's leaving us with some little holes. So let's go ahead and fix those. Easiest way to do that is just select the two edges and throw a face in there. Alright, so now we kind of have a little cutaway where you can kind of step up onto it, which that looks good. So we need to make another one of these, right, for the other side. Well, let's cheat for that. And it's not cheating because it's allowed. We're going to add a modifier, and we're going to add a mirror. Mirror. It's here someplace. There we go. Boom. It's done. And the beautiful thing about a mirror modifier is, say we decide, you know what, we want this fender to kind of stick up a little bit in the middle. We can go ahead and do this. Give it a little bit of a ridge. And the other side is updated accordingly. And then say maybe, well, if we're going to have a ridge, the lower part should have an indentation, so it's like the metal's bent. Well, we can do that too. And the other side's updated accordingly. Mirror modifiers are great because you only have to modify whatever you're doing once. Alright, so I'm going to save this just so we don't lose all of this hard work. Lesson 07. This would be a good point to mention that I have multiple videos in this series. And if you're finding this one helpful, you may find the others helpful as well. So definitely check out the playlist that'll be linked at the end of this video. Alright, with that out of the way, I'm noticing a little problem here. The body of this goes back further than the fender does. So you know what, we're just going to go ahead and select this vertice and drag it forward. And actually, you know what, let's select the one under it as well, just to keep that a square. Alright, that looks better. Let's go to solid mode. Okay. I am just going to do some really basic materials here. Screen, I don't know what screen is, but we'll use that, sure. And we're going to call it wheel. And we are going to make it, well, pretty much black. Because rubber is black. Now, you should have noticed something. I had all these selected, but only one got colored. Yep, that's how it works. There is a way, though. If you type copy, spacebar to open the search, and then do copy, you can do... Wait, can't you? Copy material? How do you do that? There's a way to do it. Maybe just try material? No, there's a way to do it. You can copy data from one selection to another. How do you do this? No, we don't want to do any of those. Make links. Here we go. Make links and materials. And now they're all the same material. Again, handy to... Oh, wait. I should have looked. I think it was Alt-D, wasn't it? Should have looked at what the key was to do that. Make links. Okay, it says Control-L. Which makes sense. L for links. So if we do Control-L, it'll pull up Make Links. And then you have all your things. And in this case, we did materials. So they all have the same texture on the wheels. Again, because I'm kind of basing this off of the one I made, I had white fenders on it, and I had a blue body on it. Actually, something quite like that. Just going to name my materials. And, helps if I spell things right, you know, because I am giving this file out to the entire world, so it's kind of good to have things spelled right. Okay, so that's your basic machine. I'm actually noticing that the front end here has a small gap exposed as well. So let's go ahead and drag this back. Which, evidently, there we go. I'm not clicking right. Alright, so basics are done. But you know what? There needs to be a way to steer this thing. There should also really be a seat, but that's not important, so I'm not going to cover that. If you want a seat, throw a seat on. All you'd have to do is do a cube, scale it down, make it flatter, and shove it there. But steering is important, because without steering you can't do anything, and that's kind of where the animation comes in. So we are going to make a cube, oddly enough, right? So everything starts as scale it 2.1, and switch back into quad view so I can see what I'm doing, and wireframe. And I'm going to throw it right here, and no surprises. I'm going to make it smaller, like that. Alright, so that's... I think mine actually had the steering coming from here. But mine was made for plastic action figures called Playmobil people. No idea if anybody's familiar with those, but their hands kind of held onto the handlebar. But in real life, your steering would be kind of more up top-ish, I think. I have never driven an ATV, so yeah, forgive my ignorance. So that's kind of that, I guess. And then I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that with Shift-D. And, you know, I'm going to actually move it outward. And what we are going to do is move all of these in whatever amount of... Yipes. Control-Z, everyone's favorite friend. Whatever amount of a node unit thing here. 100th, I guess? That might not be enough. So I'm going to go ahead and move them all one more. Except I just moved that one two more. Okay, so this is going to be our handlebars. I am pretty sure, again, I am not an expert on ATVs, but I'm pretty sure the handlebars just pretty much swivel kind of up here. This is obviously not long enough, so we need to make that wider. So I'm going to scale only on the X. So I'm going to hit the X key. And we're going to scale it out to right there. It is now as wide as the ATV is. And we're going to call that steering. No, let's call it handlebars. Handlebars. Let's go ahead and call this body. And let's go ahead and call this fenders. Again, it's always good to name your stuff just so people know what's going on. And let's go ahead and create a new material for that and call that handlebars as well. And you know, I think I'm going to make that kind of a mid-tone gray. Just like that. Okay. Beautiful. Perfect. Don't touch a thing. It is a masterpiece. So now, how do we animate this thing? And what is there to animate on this anyways? Well, depending on what you're using it for, there's a multiple amount of things. You may want to animate a wheel rotation, which, honestly, you can animate one wheel's rotation. So let's go ahead and insert a rotation keyframe on frame 0. And let's go to frame 40. And we are going to rotate this guy on the X. Whoops. And let's just do 360 degrees. And we will insert a keyframe there. Alright, so now we have, and let's rotate this so we can see this wheel a little better. One wheel rotating, and I actually even rotated it the right way, so that's good. So let's go ahead and take these three, and we are going to do a modifier. Nope, not a modifier. An object constraint, and we want to copy rotation. And our target should be wheel rear left. That only made one rotate, obviously, for the same reasons that when we applied the material, it only did one. But now we have these two wheels, and it looks like this one is rotating backwards. So let's go ahead and invert that. So now they're both rotating forward. I believe we can do the Control L, and we can do... I have modifiers, but I do not have constraints. Okay, so we'll just have to manually do those. No biggie. Copy rotation. We only want to copy the X, and I think we need to invert on this. Oh. And we probably should select our source wheel, which should have been rear left. Spins forwards. Beautiful. Let's do this last one. And I think that one I need... Nope, that one should not. Okay, so the two on this side are inverted. And that's because these ones are rotated negative 180 on the Z. Because I rotated these in object mode and not edit mode. So what I'm going to do, and this is probably going to mess up what I just did there, but we are going to do apply, and we're going to apply object transform, and we are going to go here and select rotation. And that sets all my rotations to 0. And let's see how these guys are spinning now. Yep, they're all spinning all over the place. This one even went backwards. Oh, because that one didn't apply it. Or did it apply it, but it has a keyframe. Yeah, so we want to change that to 0. And we want to go back here and change this one to 0. And insert a keyframe. Alright, so I'm copying the X. Oh, wait. Because this is now rotating backwards. Okay, simple enough to do. We'll just change this to negative 360 and insert our keyframe. Alright, so nothing should need to be inverted anymore because they're all sitting in the same dimensional space. Yep, everything spins forwards. Perfect. Alright, so that could be done with bones as well. We could do a bone for each wheel. But I didn't feel like doing that many bones. I am going to add some bones, though, because we need a way to steer this thing. My bones location should be 0, 0, 0, just for kicks and giggles. Now let's switch to wireframe and top view. We're going to duplicate this guy and put one right there, and duplicate again and put one right there. And I should have checked... well, it doesn't really matter, but just for clarity's sake, I'm going to put the bone center on the axle, or as close as possible, which actually turned out being perfectly possible. And we're going to go ahead and switch to the front view, edit mode. Oh, you know what? I think I messed up. I think I did each. Yeah, I sure did. Okay. Oh, I don't do that. I should have been in edit mode here. Okay, let's duplicate and duplicate and select the two of these and move them up. Alrighty. And then we just need to shove that sticking out. Like so. Oh, yeah. And it helps if these are centered on the front wheels as well. Alrighty, so now if we go to pose mode and we rotate one of these, we'll see it swivels where the axle meets the body. Whoops. Which is what we want. And then we have this parent bone, which doesn't really do anything because these aren't doing anything. But this parent bone, we're going to move forward. And I'm going to leave it standing upright just because I think otherwise it's going to be confusing. This is going to be our steering. So let's go ahead and call this steering. You know what? Steering is a double E, isn't it? What an idiot. Making a fool of myself on YouTube. Telling the entire world I don't know how to spell steering. And this will be wheel underscore front right and wheel front left. Alright, and then let's go ahead and take this out of that and go ahead and parent this. We want to do with empty groups. And the same thing here, Control P to parent with empty groups. Alright, so now if we look at this wheel and we go to the object data here, we will see it has a vertice group of wheel, or front left, front right, and steering. The only one we care about is the bone, which, if everything's right, the name of this object should be the group we want to put it in. So we're going to go ahead into edit mode, select all faces, and assign. And then just for kicks and giggles, I'm going to go ahead and remove those. And then we will do the same thing here. This, obviously being wheel FL, should be vertice group of wheel FL. So we're going to go edit mode and assign. And again, just for kicks and giggles, I'm going to remove. I told it to do with empty, so there's absolutely no reason to believe that those groups would have had anything, but never hurts. Alright, so these are rotating. Beautiful. This is doing absolutely nothing. Okay, that is pointless. These wheels still rotate. That's cool. Let's see what happens when we... Very nice, very nice. So they still spin. Still spin. That is good. That is most good. I know, most good is the least good English. And yes, I know that as well. So thank you. What we want to do is... I maybe should have explained. Oh, I forgot to add this. What we're going to do is make it so when you turn the steering, well, the bone that controls the steering, that the wheels will turn as well. So what we need to do is put this back to object mode and do the steering and go ahead and parent that with an empty group. And then go to edit mode and select steering. Whoops, select everything with A and assign. And now when we go to pose mode and we move this, the steering wheel or the steering column moves. Unfortunately, I did not have that in the right location. What? See, I thought I did. Okay, well, let's go to pose mode and let's just pull this back. Alright, and then we are going to go ahead and lock the location down so it can't be moved. And then we are going to go ahead and lock W and X. Whoops, let me clear that all out before I lock those. I only want this to be able to rotate on Y. So I'm going to lock everything else. So it can't be moved. If I hit the G key, it'll just go to rotate. If I hit the R key, it goes to rotate. If I go on the side view and I rotate, it'll only rotate sideways, which is good because the steering wheel should only rotate sideways. We're going to go ahead and do some bone constraints, and we are going to do a copy rotation, oddly enough, with the target being armature and bone steering. I bet you didn't see that coming. And we'll do the same thing here. Armature and steering. Now you'll notice, of course, that we have turned this into some kind of weird hover vehicle, which we didn't really want to do. Easy fix though. We only want to copy one rotation, but we're going to be copying its rotation to its not rotation, because watch. Let's go ahead, whoops, let's go to front view, go to wireframe, and I'm going to rotate this. Oh, I need to set an offset. Okay, well, now it went all crazy on me. So let's go to top. Okay, it's rotating really weird. Like, really weird. So we're not going to use that. Or this. And I need to clear that out. We are going to write our own. Wow! Let me figure out how to do this, because I haven't done this in a while. So what we do is we select the bone here, and taking a look using the rotate manipulator on the blue here, we are rotating on the Z world space, but when we look at transform for rotation, we are actually rotating on X. So we're going to right click on X and add driver and manually create later. And oh yeah, make sure you're in the animation window here, which we looked at before. And we will click on where it says X quaternion rotation, and it'll set your F curves, but we want to go to the drivers tab here. And we're going to see this little error message. 99% sure you will see this. Error, Python auto execution disabled. We need to enable that. So we go File, User Preferences, to the File tab, and Auto Run Python Scripts. Close that, and now that error goes away, and it works. So let's rotate the steering column. Nothing's happening. Okay, well, that's because we don't have any variables on it. Let's go ahead and add the armature and add steering. Right now we are using scripted expression with a 0.118, which I have no idea what that means. Again, you'll notice nothing's happening. Our wheel here's rotated a little weird. I'm going to go ahead and... Oh wait, I can't get rid of that because we're using a scripted expression. So if we put this to 0.25, the wheel will jump to 0.25. So what we want to do is we do want to use scripted expression, but we're going to use a variable, and we have this variable called var, but I'm just going to change it to steering, because why not, right? And then we're going to go ahead and change our scripted expression to steering. And now let's rotate the steering column and see what happens. Nothing. Okay. Well, let's take a look. Invalid. Wait, how did that not even spell right? I must have had my fingers in the wrong spot. Alright, so now it's spelled right. Still nothing's happening now, which I expected. And that is because our type, not location, because we can't move this location, we locked all that. We want to do its rotation. And I believe it's Y rotation, because it's, again, world rotation. Or it's local rotation. Yes, that is its Y. So this should be Y rotation, but it should be location space. Location or transform? It is location. All right. So now we are steering. But our steering's backwards. And maybe it's a little too strong. We may want to tweak that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take steering times -1. And if you are familiar with coding, which if you're watching this as a Minetest user / modder, you probably somewhat are, you will kind of understand that we are multiplying by -1, which will invert the result, essentially, and make it a negative. So now as we turn this, the wheels turn, but maybe they're turning too tight. We can change that by changing our 0.1 to, say a 0.75. And now we have to turn the steering column more for the wheels to turn. Or say the opposite is happening, and we want it to turn harder. We can change this up to like 4. And then just little tweaks on the steering change that all over the place. I'm going to leave it at 1 because 1 seems to be like what you would expect, what I would expect driving. I don't know, maybe I shouldn't expect that, and maybe that's not right, but I feel like it would be. So we have that, and we're going to go ahead and copy the driver variable by using that little clipboard icon, and we're going to go ahead and create a driver on this one. We're going to hit manually create later. Oh no, that totally did not work. Oh, you know, I think, no, I was on the bone. We want to be X. I'm going to add driver. Oh, because you have to do single, otherwise it's doing it for all of them. Okay. Again, we have to click on this, and then we should just be able to hit copy from. We will eliminate that one. That's weird because now I have nothing. In fact, I can't even rotate this. Oh wait, there we go. Armature. Okay, now let's make a pick steering. It's still not rotating though. And probably because we don't have steering times -1. And let's see what happens now. Ooh, that looks really, really dangerous. So let's put this as a +1. And very nice, very nice. They both turn in unison, as they should. Unfortunately, we can turn these wheels into the body. We should not be able to do that. So let's go ahead and add a bone constraint to our main steering here, and do a limit rotation. Limit rotation. Ah, yes, my favoriteest thing ever. I hate these so much. This is going to be an easy one, though. We just need to limit rotation on Y. So we're going to go ahead and turn Y on. And let's see here. 0.1 is probably even too strong. So we're going to set our max at 0.1 and our minimum at -0.1. And if I did that right, clearly I didn't. Let's try for transform. Nope, that ain't doing nothing. Limit Z. Oh, let's do -0.1 and 0.1. Now I just can't rotate it at all. Or wait, It's rotating just very little. Why is this? That makes no sense. I'm not rotating it on Z. See, this is why it's so confusing. Oh, maybe yeah, it's because it's at world space. Maybe I should do it with local space? Ah, ha, ha. That's why. If it's set to local space, then it uses a local space. That makes sense. But point 1, that doesn't make sense. It's not letting me do anything. Should it be -1 and +1? That's still very little. Let's just go up to like 12. I think 12 is probably about what I want. Hey, what do you know? 12 is actually a little too strong. Let's just do -10 and +10. You wouldn't want the wheels getting close enough to the fenders where they could rub anyway. Right, there we go. So now the steering can only steer so far. And the wheels still spin the correct direction while turned. So all is dandy. The only thing you may still want to do is put that seat on, I guess, because that's going to be an uncomfortable ride without a seat. You may also want to put in an engine and a gas tank and some headlights. I mean, you can put in whatever you want, of course, but that is the basics of creating a vehicle. And of course, yes, you could do a truck. You could do like I did here, an ATV, a little go-kart, anything that would kind of all use the same bone system. I did not want to do that. Take me back, take me back. I hit Shift Z. I hit Shift Z, which toggles render mode, but I don't have any lights, so nothing could render. But that is how to create a vehicle in Blender. If I could remember the name of the fellow that requested the video, I would mention his name again, but I don't remember. If you want to know, jump back to the beginning of the video or look in the description. I'll probably put it there. So hopefully this helped you out, man. Hopefully, even if you are not that person, I want to say it was Samuel something. If you're not him, hopefully this still helped you out. Hopefully this taught you a couple things about, well, maybe some modeling, like some extruding stuff and kind of some of the drawing we did. We used the mirror modifier. We did some bone stuff. Oh, one quick thing before I go. Let me just demo real quick how we would, if we weren't going to use bones to rotate these wheels. I'll just do it on a rear wheel, because why not? What you would do is, see this little yellow dot right in the middle of the wheel here that never gets any bigger? That is the object's center point. So in edit mode, or in object mode, that's where it rotates from, that's where it scales from, and that's kind of its grabbing point. That is its world anchor, essentially. So what you would do is switch to edit mode and move that anchor point to wherever your axle is going to be, or your axle's pivot, and then you would just move this back so that the pivot is on the edge of the vehicle, which I think I actually put right about right. And now when you rotate it, it rotates at that point. And you can do the same thing that I did with the bones, which you would do for the front wheels. Let me find it here. Object constraints, you can limit rotation here as well. And in this case it's Z, so I think you would want to set that. -10 and +10, and there we go. And that would be the same way, and you would set up a copy rotation from this steering to those two wheels, and that's how you would do it without using bones. And now, time for the epic finish picture. That bone's kind of annoying me, so I'm going to go ahead and move that to layer 2. I have not covered that at all. M key on the keyboard brings up move to layer. Hitting the numbers on your keyboard switches you between layers. You can see it right here, except it's not updating now. When I mouse over it, it doesn't update. That's weird. If you want to show 2 at once, hit the shift key. I have layers 1 and 2 visible. You want to make one layer invisible, hit the shift key and you'll toggle that one's visibility. I just want to have one visible right now, though. So thanks for watching, guys. I know we didn't cover how to unwrap the fenders or the body or the steering column, but I think you got a wrap on this, and if not, check back on some of my older videos on UV mapping. I didn't want to make this video super long. Of course I did anyways, but it would have been even longer had I covered all the mapping. So hopefully you learned something, and any questions, leave them in the comments below, and I'll get back to you ASAP.